Hey there, Kalisha here. I'm going to show you today how to make sauteed tiny potatoes. So our technique, our cooking technique that we're going to use is sauteing. So basically what sauteing is essentially a cooking method that uses moderate heat with a small amount of fat. And your goal in sauteing is to caramelize or brown the exterior of the food that you are cooking. So saute literally comes from the French for to jump. But in this case, our food will not be jumping around. We won't be doing fancy chef style flips with the pan because I'm using my trusty cast iron skillet and it is too heavy to do that. Too heavy for me anyway. So what I'll be doing instead is moving the food around with my utensils. So what I have here is about a pound of tiny potatoes. And we know our pan is nice and hot because we can hear that sizzle. And what I did ahead of time is I put the potatoes in a bowl with some garlic and I actually steamed them. I covered the bowl with plastic wrap before I put them in the microwave to steam, and I put them in there for about 4 minutes. So these potatoes are already cooked essentially. The only reason why we're putting them in here is to get a bit of color on them and brown the garlic as well. And my heat, one characteristic of sauteing is that, like I said earlier, it's moderate heat. So you don't want it too low, you don't want it too high. Especially since we put the garlic and everything in there along with the potatoes. So, and you can see already that the potatoes are getting some color on them. I can smell the garlic. We're not frying in inches and inches of fat. So we're going to get a nice glossy look on the potatoes. And you can use these potatoes as a side for just about anything. Whether you're making a steak, grilling ribeyes on the grill, you have grilled chicken, baked fish, it will go as a great side. And it comes together so quickly because we're using the microwave as well as our pan here. So I'm just going to let them brown a little bit more. And like I said, they're already cooked, but let me get this one out here because so you can see how, brown it is on the surface. We just want to get a little color on the skin there. And these potatoes are so small, obviously they don't have to be peeled or anything because the skin is so tender. Now, if you don't have tiny potatoes like this, if you can't find them in the store, the second best option would be to use a new potato or a red potato because those potatoes, small red potatoes, are harvested before the starch in them is completely developed, so they work well in applications like this because they hold their shape well. So if you need to cut the potatoes in quarters to make them smaller, they'll still hold their shape. Whereas if you were to cut a russet potato in small pieces and then try to saute them, then they would just mash and break apart because they have a higher starch content. So the color on these potatoes is plenty good, and the garlic is nice and toasty. So I'm going to actually turn off my fire because the cast iron holds heat really well. So I know that my potatoes are going to continue to cook. And you can see these guys here getting brown and nice and brown. So at this moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of scallions. I'm going to add a pinch of salt to taste. And I also want to add some pepper. And I don't think I got my pepper out earlier. Now I have to find my pepper. There it is. I'm going to add just maybe like a quarter teaspoon of pepper on there. Then I'll give it another toss just to get my scallions a little wilted and let them bring their oniony goodness to the party. And so that is it. That is it. They look delicious. Quick and easy side dish. So I'm going to grab a fork and just check. Make sure that there's enough salt here. We'll probably use a teeny bit more salt. So I'm going to add a little bit more. The garlic is definitely awesome. So that was like about a pound of potatoes, and that was 3 cloves of garlic that I just sliced. So I'm going to put it in the serving dish. And that looks really good. And if you're serving it with something that's already salty or well seasoned, you still want to season them with salt, but you might want to ease up on the salt a little bit if you're serving them with something that's already salty. So just to make sure you don't overload on salt. So that is it. Tiny new potatoes with garlic and scallions. And I'll see you next time. Bye.